Every season we see new breakthrough players, and this season is no exception. Usually it's a young player we see have flashes of greatness from already, and now they're just starting to fully live up to their potential. This season, Tyrese Haliburton has gone from young star to a franchise player for the Pacers, and he is putting up Steve Nash type numbers. We have never seen a player end the season with averages of 25 points and 12 assists per game, and Haliburton could be the first to do that. Throughout the stretch of the first 15 games, the Pacers are first in points per game, assists per game, field goal percentage, and second in three-point percentage. Tyrese has brought this team from a low-tier play-in team to a potential threat to make the lower seeding of the playoffs if they can continue this offensive output. Let's see how his presence has been the biggest present for the Pacers this season. Ever since Tyrese was traded to the Pacers in the 21-22 season, he has had the reins of the offense and has thrived. This Pacers team isn't that great on paper, but Tyrese has given his teammates good looks, and they have been eating all season because of it. Sophomore Benedict Mathurin is looking like he could become a second star next to Haliburton, and they do have some solid shooters and big men, including Buddy Hield, Bruce Brown, and Miles Turner. In the modern NBA, you need at least one, and now what seems like two star level players to be able to compete. Some have homegrown duos like the 76ers and the Celtics, some have gone out to get their stars like the Bucks and the Suns, but the Pacers could be a sneaky team to make a move at the break. If this team wants to compete, they have the assets to make a move at the trade deadline to pair up another star with Tyrese. He has the highest offensive rating this season and could easily build on that with another co-star. The main issue with Tyrese right now in this Pacers squad overall is his defense. He has one of the lowest defensive ratings in the NBA and the fourth worst rating among players playing 30 or more minutes a game this season. Haliburton is tall for the average point guard, being around 6'5", but even in today's positionless game, he still has a few inches on the average point guard, who's around 6'2". He also has good length for the position, but it seems like he just doesn't care as much on defense, which is a common trend at the point guard position and in the NBA overall. I don't see the defensive woes having much of an impact on his career though. Even Steve Nash wasn't the greatest defender in his time. He still impacted the offense to the point where it didn't hurt them too much, and I see Tyrese falling into that. He also has about a steal and a half per game to this point of his career, so as long as he can get to the ball defensively in some points of the game, he'll be fine. It's better to be a bad defender than a liability, and I just don't see him as a liability right now, especially if he continues this offensive output. Let's talk about what makes Tyrese so good. It's his ability to be that perfect combo guard that can pass and score at elite levels, and is becoming one of the best at his position in the NBA. Many have given him that Steve Nash / Trae Young comparison, and those are great, but he is more efficient than both of those up to this point and is putting up more assists and less turnovers. He also is arguably a better shooter than both. I think he clears Trae Young, but the stats with Nash are close, he just has more volume. Trae Young has put up over 20 shots per game at points in his career, and Tyrese hasn't got there yet, but Tyrese has been more consistent on fewer looks. Haliburton is the player that Trae Young wants to be. Now, if we compare these two specifically, let's go into some stats, because there has been a lot of talk, especially before this season, that I've seen between people talking about Tyrese Haliburton and Trae Young, since they have similar-ish stats, being able to put a lot of shots up and getting a lot of assists. Let's compare these two guys' stats so far this season. Now, the points pretty similar. The rebounds, the edge goes to Tyrese. He's the bigger guy. Not very much of a surprise there. The same thing with the blocks. Trae Young with more steals, Tyrese with more assists. And overall, both of these guys are close in scoring, but the difference in how they score is massive. When we look at both of these guys' field goal percentage and three-point percentage, even free throw percentage, effective field goal percentage, it all goes to Tyrese Haliburton. Trae Young is shooting less than 40% from the field overall, which is not good. He's shooting 36% from three, while Tyrese is shooting 52% from the field and 46% from three, with a 92% free throw rating and a 63% effective field goal rating. That is levels above Trae Young, and you may argue it's because maybe Trae Young shoots more shots, and that is true, but Tyrese has the opportunity to. It just seems like he passes the ball when he doesn't have a shot, which is also why he has more assists than Trae Young. When we look at this, Trae Young is shooting just 1.5 more shots per game than Tyrese Haliburton, but Haliburton is shooting 52% compared to Trae Young's 39%. So it's not like there's that much of a difference there between the field goals attempted. Tyrese is just shooting way better. And even if we look at the 2-point percentage too, he's shooting much better, 58%. No matter how you look at it, both of these guys too are also taking almost identical amount of threes per game, just coming down to 8.3 to 8.4. Trae Young shooting a little bit more, but when we look at the 3-point percentage, Tyrese is shooting 46% while Trae Young shooting 36%. So a 10% difference there, even though they're shooting about the same amount of shots per game. No matter how you want to look at it, it just seems like Tyrese Haliburton is the better scorer. When we look at assists as well, he's putting up more assists with less turnovers. He only has 2.5 turnovers per game compared to Trae Young's 4, while he has 12 assists per game compared to Trae Young's 10.4. So there's a big difference between the two guys here. And I know that people are going to try to keep throwing out this comparison just because they both have high scoring and assist numbers. But if we're looking at this season, Tyrese Haliburton is just the more efficient scorer. He's the better passer. He turns the ball over less. And I'm not going to say that he's the better player overall right now because it is only one season. It's the start of the season. But Tyrese Haliburton has the skills to become a better player than Trae Young. Enough with the comparisons. Tyrese Haliburton, like I've mentioned, is making history this season, and he's his own player. He's on the path to become an elite talent if he maintains this track. We have seen him progress throughout his career, especially after being traded early on in his career, where some players don't do as well after that, but he has pushed past that and become a better player. Hopefully this Pacers team can put some players next to him and compete. As we know, there's a lot of good young pieces on this team still. Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Mathurin, Jarace Walker, their pick from this year. Buddy Hield and Bruce Brown have also been good role players and starters for them this season. Maybe they go out and try to get a guy like OG Anunoby, a guy like Alex Caruso, some of the names that they've been targeted to, maybe even a guy like Matisse Thybulle, who may not be the best offensive player, but they do need a lot of help defensively because this is one of the worst defensive teams. I think if they can put some players next to him, maybe not necessarily a superstar level player, maybe just some good role players, this team can continue to thrive, Tyrese can continue to be good, and maybe one of their players like Benedict Mathurin or Jarace Walker can also become a star next to him. Let me know down below if you guys want me to cover another player in the NBA, and the Pacers are going to be competing in this year's in-season tournament. They are one of the last 8 teams left, so make sure to tune in for that video in a few days, and until then, I will see you in the next one.